A very common question we receive about EzGrader is that sometimes EzGrader does not get the lines correct and they run diagonally across the image when measured. EzGrader provides the tools to correct most of these issues easily, and we will explain why this can happen. Let's start with an example to show you what I mean. This is Scott number 702 showing you the Red Cross nurse, a common stamp. At first glance, one would expect this to be an easy stamp to grade with EzGrader. If we look at the left and right side, it has the lines skewed. So if you look here on the left side, you can see that this line is skewed towards the center of the stamp on both sides. This is because the design does not have straight edges but has only partial edges. To get the measurements correct, all we need to do is click on the Specify Features and then select Partial and then EzGrade it again, and now you will see that the lines are in fact correct and where they should be, and we get an accurate grade. EzGrader uses different algorithms to determine the centering, and when you first load an image, it uses the most common one, namely for stamps with well-defined straight borders on each side. Okay, now let's go over some useful tips that can help you better evaluate your stamps using EzGrader. Centering is of critical importance in valuing stamps, but what do you do when you have two stamps with similar centerings but obvious differences? One of the things I tend to look out for when looking for stamps to purchase are stamps with jumbo margins. Now, this term has been abused for decades. What is jumbo to one person or dealer is just a regular stamp to me. How can we quantify and have a system that we can all see and agree upon? EzGrader was designed with this in mind and provides an easy solution. One of the most important metrics that EzGrader provides you with is overlooked by most users. That is the percent of stamp value. That's this value here. This is explained in the manual on page 20. It is a measurement of how much of the stamp is margin and how much is design. This metric is extremely important in determining if in fact your stamp qualifies as a jumbo. But for this to be of value, you will need to have several copies of the same stamp to compare. Let's look at one of my favorite U.S. stamps, U.S. Scott number 184 from 1879, the American banknote series. Although this is a very common stamp with countless millions issued, the stamps with large jumbo margins are not easy to find, and they usually command a large premium. So let's look at a few so you can see what I mean. Let's load up one. We bring these into the viewer here. So as you can see, this stamp has a percentage of 12. Let's load up the second stamp. This stamp also has a percent of stamp of 12%, although it's a slightly lower grade, but still a nice stamp. Now let's look at some truly great jumbos. Now visually you can see that this stamp has much larger margins, but the key number to keep in mind here is this 21%. That is significantly larger than the previous two, which only had 12%. Let's look at the next one. So here's one of those stamps where the design the EzGrader could not get the design correct. What we need to do here is specify the feature to properly detect the centering, and a lot of times there's not enough contrast between the design and the border of the stamp, and it can cause issues. So what we do now is we will change that, and now we have the design correctly centered, and we can see that this stamp is also 23%. Again, significantly larger than the previous stamps. And let's look at one final example here. Now this stamp has a percentage of 25%. For me, this is the best one of the 5 that we loaded. It has the best centering and the largest percentage. Truly a jumbo stamp. One other thing that I'd like to point out to you is that EzGrader gives you the data so that you can use it to make informed decisions on your purchases and evaluations of stamps. The last metric that you should be making use of is the design size. That is this measurement down here. It can be a critical clue in determining if a stamp is altered or not. Because the edge ratio is computed from the printed design, it is constant for all copies of a given stamp. All copies of the same stamp should have exactly the same edge ratio. Interpretation of the measurements is left to you to decide. In the 5 Scott numbers 184s that we measured, all had an edge ratio of 0.8. So here's the 0.8. I'll reload one of the other ones. Even though this stamp is not a jumbo, it still has a measurement of 0.8. Alright, that's it for today. If you have any questions, please let us know, and enjoy the hunt.